Hey everybody, it's time for NHL Games of the Week, where I look ahead to the upcoming week in the NHL and pick out which games I think are going to be the best, most exciting, and most entertaining to watch. So before we get into it, I just ask you to please subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you haven't yet. It helps the channel an absolute ton and is greatly appreciated. But let's get right into things. Another big week of NHL hockey. Playoff races are in full swing as we come down to the final month of the season here. And starting with today, Sunday, April 11th, I have the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. Battle of New York here as two teams in the East go at it. Rangers trying to pull into playoff positioning. Islanders are trying to take the division lead. And it's also a massive rivalry game between two teams that are long time rivals in the NHL. Doesn't really get much better than that. Big 2 points on the line and teams that don't like each other. Rangers and Islanders will be a good one. Also, tonight, the game I'll be streaming tonight, the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins. This is a huge one again in the East where Washington is trying to hold first place in the division, trying to hold off the Islanders. They're going to look for a big win in this one. Boston is fighting for their playoff lives in fourth place, final playoff spot in the East. They're really going to be coming out looking to get at least a point, if not two, out of this one after a tough loss against the Flyers yesterday. So that's a huge game with a big 2 points on the line. And also when the Bruins and Capitals play each other, it usually gets pretty nasty. So I am fully expecting that to be a fun one. Monday the 12th, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Montreal Canadiens. Huge Canadian rivalry here. Long-time Original Six rivals. Not to mention important points on the line for both of these teams as the Leafs are looking to secure their top spot in the North. And Montreal is trying to secure a playoff spot because they have not been playing all that well recently. They are in fourth place, the last playoff spot in the North. And they're going to need to pick up some more wins if they're going to, make sure that they get into the postseason. So that should be a really good one. Another really good one, the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild out west. St. Louis had a really tough stretch, but now they've turned it around and they're playing a lot better again. And they dropped out of a playoff spot, but now they're fighting for their playoff lives as they're going back for that fourth position. And it's an absolute dogfight between them and Arizona for who's going to get into the postseason. So huge 2 points there. Minnesota's had a great year. But if they're going to keep pace with Vegas and Colorado, they're going to need to get wins as well. Speaking of Arizona, the Coyotes play the Avalanche Monday night. That's a huge game specifically for Arizona, who, again, like I said, are in an absolute dogfight with St. Louis for that fourth playoff spot in the West. So that's a huge game for them against Colorado. Colorado, first place in the division, one of the best teams in the league. They're going to be looking to secure that top spot. But that's a big game, particularly for the Coyotes, who need every point that they can get. Moving on now to Tuesday the 13th, I have Philadelphia and Washington. Great rivalry matchup there. Two teams that play awesome games against each other and really have for the last 10-plus years, honestly. I mean, Philly and Washington's always a great matchup. And the Flyers need every single point that they can get. They are currently outside of the playoff picture looking in. They're going to catch Boston. They're going to need to win some big games. This would be a big game. And like I said, Washington's fighting for first place in the division. So they're going to want to win it as well. But that is a huge matchup. Tampa Bay and Nashville in the Central. Nashville fighting for the fourth and final playoff spot in the division. With Chicago, with Dallas. I think Columbus is pretty much out of it at this point, but there's still three teams there going for that one last playoff spot. So it's a huge game for the Predators. For the Lightning, they haven't been playing all that well recently. Their record in their last 10 games isn't great. So the Lightning would love to get back on track and pick up a big win and try and get back into first place in the Central Division. Speaking of the Florida Panthers, they play the Dallas Stars on the 13th, Dallas is one of those teams fighting with Nashville in the Central for that fourth and final playoff spot. Florida is fighting for the division lead. They also, similar to Tampa Bay, have not been playing all that well recently, so they're going to look to get back into the win column and pick up a big win there on Tuesday night. So that should be a good game with a couple of big points on the line. Moving on now to Wednesday the 14th, we have Colorado in St. Louis. I will be streaming this game as well. I'll also be doing the Philly and Washington game on the 13th, but Colorado and St. Louis. Again, Colorado top of the division, trying to secure first place. One of the best teams in the league. St. Louis playing a little bit better playing a lot better their last few games than they were for the stretch before that when they lost 7 in a row. This is huge for the Blues, who need to are really fighting to get back in, need the 2 points. They're fighting to get back into the playoffs and secure that that fourth playoff spot in the West. That's going to be a massive game. And those two teams have a pretty decent rivalry between them as well, with the Blues and the Avalanche. Also, speaking of that West Division playoff race, the Arizona Coyotes play the Minnesota Wild. So it's funny, on the 12th, Arizona plays Colorado and St. Louis plays the Wild. And then on the 14th, it switches, and Arizona plays the Wild and St. Louis plays Colorado. Again, whatever the matchups are, every single point is massive for these two teams in the Blues and the Coyotes. And it's going to be a dogfight to the finish to see who gets the final playoff spot. And then for Minnesota, obviously they're trying to keep pace with Colorado and Vegas. Ton of games on Thursday the 15th. Starting with the Islanders and the Bruins. That's a massive one. Again, Boston needs every point they can get, trying to secure that fourth playoff spot. Islanders are fighting with the Capitals for the division lead. They want the 2 points as well. That will be a huge game. Nashville plays Carolina. Carolina is fighting at the top of the division with Tampa Bay and Florida, trying to win the Central this year. Nashville fighting with Chicago and Dallas for the fourth playoff spot. They need every single point that they can get. Huge matchup there. Florida and Tampa Bay play each other. This is a potential playoff preview. If they finish 2-3 in the Central, if Carolina ends up winning it, this will be your first round playoff matchup between Florida and Tampa. Great teams. Both of them not playing all that well recently, though. So that's going to be a huge matchup on Thursday to see who gets the 2 points out of that. Battle of Pennsylvania, also Thursday night. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh play each other. This is a huge one as Philly is trying to work their way back into the playoffs. Pittsburgh trying to hold their position or possibly move up. Big 2 points on the line there. Huge rivalry between the teams. Going to be a great one. And finally, Winnipeg and Toronto. Two teams up in the north who are fighting for playoff seeding. Toronto leading the division. Winnipeg in a battle right now with Edmonton for the second and third spots. So that will be a huge one up in Canada. And we'll see if Winnipeg has anything for the division-leading Leafs. Moving on now to Friday the 16th. Only really one standout game that night. It is, again, the Islanders and the Bruins. They're playing back-to-back Thursday and Friday. And everything I said about the first matchup applies to this one. That's a big one there between those two. Huge points on the line, particularly for the Bruins. That brings us now to the final day, Saturday the 17th. We have the Capitals and the Flyers playing again. Everything I said about the Tuesday matchup applies to the Saturday one. Huge game there. Massive one out west as the St. Louis Blues and the Arizona Coyotes play each other. Been talking all this video about how it's a dogfight between St. Louis and Arizona for the fourth spot. They play other teams earlier in the week, but they play each other on Saturday, and that is going to be an absolutely massive one. Depending on how the first part of the week goes, that game could literally be for who gets fourth place and who doesn't. So that is an absolutely huge game between the Blues and the Coyotes. That will be one of the best of the week for sure. Nashville plays Carolina again on Saturday, so that, again, everything about the first matchup applies to this one. Huge huge points on the line there. Carolina trying to win the division. Nashville trying to secure a playoff spot. The Panthers and the Lightning also play again on Saturday. So again, everything about the first matchup applies. Huge game between those two teams there on Saturday as well, as they're fighting for the divisional seeding, and that could be a first-round playoff matchup. Speaking of potential first-round playoff matchups, the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets play on Saturday night, and that is going to be one hell of a game. They're right now fighting for second place in the North Division. They're both behind Toronto, but they're fighting for second. And it looks like this is probably going to be a playoff preview, as it seems very likely with Toronto's division lead, barring some sort of collapse. Toronto's going to finish first, and then second and third is going to go to either the Oilers or the Jets, and whoever doesn't get second will finish in third. And this is likely to be your first-round playoff matchup for the second and third seed in the North. So, huge game between the Oilers and Jets on Saturday. That should be a great one. And that's going to do it for this week. As you can see, plenty of games. A little light on the schedule Friday, but for the other days, especially Thursday and Saturday, there are some massive matchups this week. And it's going to be another great week of NHL hockey as the playoffs inch closer and closer, and we are now down into the final month of the regular season. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store, donation links, and channel memberships are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.